Hello, hello, hello. So I would like to share with you another idea. All right, this is basically based on on an idea for a kind of a kind of magician that's kind of a little bit willing to commit terror, acts of terror, yeah, or at least on monsters, really. All right, picture this: there's a magician clad in red with a feather in her cap and a short skirt, and and lace dark stockings and red heels and a beautiful appearance with dark raven black hair, but she really, really loves explosions and fire. Very basic stuff, really. She does no other spells, including support and utility spells, but she really, really loves seeing things. She really loves seeing things burn, burn, burn in a burning ring of fire, and loves using explosions to blow her enemies a bit for her own amusement. He is also an adventurer who is seen as an enemy by the Dark Lord and feared by monsters everywhere due to her destructive and cruel and sadistic behavior. But the Red Cloak Hunters, which yeah, I am planning on going over those much later, sometime. She is respected top level member of their guild and seen as one of their most powerful mages in the guild due to her world destructive ability and the many raids and attacks upon monsters in their dungeons you can part in. She is known as Megan the Red, and her signature weapon is a staff tipped with with an elemental fire orb and that amplifies fire-based magics, and is sought after the elemental Lord of Fire, who she ironically enough adores, and she also has a necklace of fireballs, around her neck that she also uses in a pinch when she runs low on, inspiration, which is the Lord's version of mana. Alright, I need to remember that, mana is known as inspiration in the lore. Yeah, inspiration points. They're basically the MP, yeah. Or maybe I should call it. I was considering calling it like dreams or something like that. Yeah. Like when you learn a new move, it's called an idea, and you can put like inspiration towards towards your medium, strengthen it. Yeah, I think I may just go with it, calling the MP like dreams, and and call and calling it, and call it, and of course calling the HP, hearts or something like that. Oh, and also I'm gonna, also, I think, oh, and I'll also call levels up, levels, courage, yeah. It's based on a white light. It's based on an NES game, I think. At least I think it was NES. It's basically about that white lion, and there's this girl that gets a whole bunch of summons. One of them is like a warrior with a spear, and she tries to find this white lion that is responsible for missing parents or something, and she kind of goes in dreamland to do it. Well, it's kind of a bit of an isekai story. It's kind of based on an old Japanese movie. Yeah, it kind of has really bad box art. Of course it did of course it did because it was released on an because that's what the style at the time was. On the American consoles. Just make a title just change the name of the game and just put on an image that has nothing to do with it. A bit like Mega Man 1 or Great Greed. You guys probably don't even know what Great Greed is. Anyway, I'll see you later. Remember to play games and have fun, okay? Bye bye now. Oh yeah, I should mention that Megan the Red is kind of inspired by Megumin. Only unlike Megumin, obviously Megan the Red can spam explosion, yeah. She can spam explosion, though they're not quite as big as Megumin's. Of course, she's also based on Final Fantasy Red mages. Loving fire and explosions. Loving fire in particular is kind of based on Firefly. You guys know the Batman villain. One of the underused Batman villains that really likes to burn stuff. Yeah, it's I kind of feel bad for Gotham for having a pyromaniac who can fly. It reminds me of in the Batman, the 2000s one. Firefly legitimately became an actual legitimately was a threat in the show, but then he became, then he became a living, then he became a living, nuclear monster that was, about to, go into a full-on nuclear meltdown. Yeah, by going to a nuclear power plant and basically blowing up the city. Don't worry, Batman, of course, stopped him. Anyway, that's enough, okay? Remember to flag, button, try like a man for Wrist Up Dreams Arena. Bye-bye now.